It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of October 22nd, 1999. We literally do not have a whole lot of time to work with here. We've got 8 movies to get to. Big weekend for movies, so let's just jump on into it, and we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is The Best Man. This is kind of an interesting movie because it came out in 1999. For a number of years, it was largely forgotten by most people. It was mostly forgotten before they made The Best Man Holiday. You didn't usually see it on TV a lot. You would usually see it. Put it this way, you saw more notorious movies like Soul Plane and Geely played on TV more than you saw The Best Man before the second film came out. But you have Malcolm D. Lee, who's the brother of Spike Lee, directing this film, starring many African-American actors who were very much unknown at the time. I mean, Terrence Howard was still 6 years away from being nominated for an Oscar in Hustle and Flow. Regina Hall making her feature film debut in here. Taye Diggs, he'd been in a couple movies before this. Not really breaking out as much as we know him now. In fact, a lot of these people here. Neil Long, Morris Chestnut, Harold Perrineau, Terrence Howard, Sanaa Lathan, Melissa DeSouza, Monica Calhoun. I mean, just these all great actors, but not really to the point where they would be at almost 20, is almost to where they are right now. I mean, we still look at them nowadays as great actors overall, but back then they were relatively unknowns when this movie came out. And this also was a film that was considered as a male-centered answer to female-centered comedy, stuff like Waiting to Exhale and Soul Food, kind of like what The Wood was earlier in the year. But this is a film that later paved the way for more African-American-centered comedies. You know, stuff like Deliver Us from Eva, Something New, Last Holiday, Jumping the Broom, Think Like a Man. But Think Like a Man kind of being more similar to The Best Man, more like it was the original Think Like a Man, just without Steve Harvey popping up every couple of minutes. But the plot of this is that you have this guy living in Chicago, played by Taye Diggs, who's about to hit it big time professionally. His debut novel has been selected by Oprah's Book Club. He has a beautiful and devoted girlfriend, played by Sanaa Lathan. His best friend Lance is getting married, played by Morris Chestnut, on the weekend in New York. In an earlier scene, they're in a tub, and it becomes clear that not all is well. Robin merely sighs contentedly and idly mentions that she could stay like this forever. For Harper, life is just beginning, and he feels like committing to a woman now that he's on the verge of success would be a death knell for him. And to complicate matters further, his new book has fallen into the wrong hands. Jordan, played by Neil Long, who's an old woulda, coulda, shoulda flame of Harper's and has read an advanced copy and seems to be working its way through Harper's inner circle, coincidentally the other members of the wedding party. And in the novel are several unsavory, fictionalized characterizations of Harper's real-life friends during their college years. The friends all taken in good stride where they talk to Harper face-to-face, but they're hurt because at least one of them wants to teach Harper a lesson. And Jordan learns that Harper's book is unabashedly flattering in its portrayal of a character based on her, however, and she decides to test the waters with Harper at this vulnerable stage. And to make matters worse, he had an affair with Mia, Lance's bride-to-be, while in college. Lance doesn't know, and hey, Harper's anxious to keep the secret, which, of course, you know good and well that that's not going to end well for him. I've said before, I don't think I've said it too much on this show in particular, but I kind of prefer these type of comedies more than the traditional romantic comedies, mainly with white people in them. But that's mostly because those movies are really predictable. You can predict every single plot point that's going to happen. You know when somebody's going to break up with somebody in the third act, they have to do is walk around to figure out what life is about before they're back together at the end. It's something that we've grown more accustomed to, and it starts to get boring after a while now. Now, a lot of the movies that I do like, Think Like a Man, Just Right, Jumping the Broom, all do that, but they keep it short and sweet. I mean, Think Like a Man, I think, was the only one that did it too long. They did it to all the couples. It took 10 minutes for all of them to break up at one point. But for some reason, I get more excited about movies like those than I do about other comedies like this. Probably because they managed to take the romantic comedy plot and be a little bit more clever at how they present it, give us more likable characters, make their breakup in the middle of the film seem more realistic and shorter than it needs to be, and make the more romantic parts seem more realistic so that the audience can relate to them. That's not to say every romantic comedy with predominantly white people is bad. I mean, some of the best ones have come out over the last couple of decades now. Stuff like 500 Days of Summer, plus the criminally underrated No Strings Attached. I mean, I'm just saying that the majority of them are really bad, especially if you feature people like Kate Hudson, Katherine Heigl. Even Sandra Bullock had a little bit of a dry spell at this point. But getting back to this movie here, the big question I was trying to get out of it was, when I watched this for the first time when the second movie came out, The Best Man Holiday, which I actually did really enjoy. And I did really enjoy this film, too. It has a lot of the same romantic comedy cliches we get in these type of movies, but like I said before, it's clever enough to get its best laughs without resorting to the same old cliches. It works mostly because of the cast. I think Malcolm Lee does a pretty good job of creating likable characters we can relate to and put together a really great cast that can bring these characters to life and make us really enjoy them. Maybe Tyler Perry should be taking some notes here. But it never bores you during its run because you're so invested in these characters and their dilemmas. And probably the best character was Taye Diggs as Harper Daniels. He's such a likable guy that even when he comes across as a bad person, the filmmakers still give us reason to stick with this guy and root him on. Not to say that the other actors aren't good. Far from it. I mean, these are really, really good actors in this movie. Terrence Howard alone has some of the film's best laughs. And the writing is very good. The script does a really good job of playing against the stereotypes that we're used to seeing in romantic comedies, making it a little bit more clever and original. It also manages to take a plot used over and over again and make it work on its own merits. There's nothing really bad I could say about this movie that's worth talking about, mostly because the movie does run fairly smoothly without any real stumbles in the process. I mean, when the second movie came out, it actually gave me an opportunity to finally look for this film, and I'm really glad I did, because it definitely was worth finding, because it succeeded in taking a predictable plot seen many times in other romantic comedies, making it work on its own, has the great cast to work with, bringing these very likable characters to life, and a lot of really good funny moments. It's a really good movie, and overall, I've liked these films. I like this one, I like the second one. Honestly, I have not seen the last miniseries they did, The Final Chapters, which has been on Peacock now for over a year. I should probably get around to that at some point, but I keep hearing that's pretty good too, so it is good to know that there is a consistently good trilogy out of these films for a movie that I didn't even think really would have worked well with multiple films. I mean, look at what they're doing now with My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I mean, the first film was barely passable, and the sequels have not been that good, but here you have this one, you have the sequel, and you have the miniseries, which did pretty well overall with people. I guess there is kind of a charm to this series that maybe works better with a lot of these with the films that they do after that, because most of it's because of the characters. You really do get invested in them, you really do get involved in their situations, and it results into a really enjoyable film. I really enjoyed this one a lot, and it's one I go back to every once in a while. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's definitely worth a watch. I'd highly recommend The Best Man. So, with that said, let's move on to our next movie, and that is Martin Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead, starring Nicolas Cage. So Nicolas Cage plays this depressed New York City paramedic, and he has all these different things going on where he's dealing with all these different people over the course of an evening, and over the course of a couple days, actually. But I think this movie really stumbled in the marketing department. I think they did not do a good job of selling this film to the public. But the movie did not do so well when it came out. In fact, it actually was a huge bomb when it came out. It only brought back half of its budget, but it has gone on to become have a cult following. And notably, it was the last movie ever released on Laserdisc. That was something I thought was pretty interesting. But I mean, Martin Scorsese, usually he will turn out a good film, even when his films aren't that great. You can still tell his heart and passion was in there. And I think this film maybe was a little bit ahead of its time. You have a really good performance by Nicolas Cage here. Great casting all around here. Patricia Arquette, John Goodman, Ving Rhames, Tom Sizemore, Cliff Curtis. Mark Anthony has a good role in here as well. I think really what it came down to, honestly, was that the movie was a little bit ahead of its time. It kind of has a little bit of flashes of that Jake Gyllenhaal movie, Nightcrawler, which is a fantastic film overall. And you know, this film kind of reminded me of that. I mean, there's more. I mean, it's more than just one night, of course, but it really does work with the way that they really delve into Nicolas Cage's character overall, and it shows that Nicolas Cage still has it, man. I mean, after leaving Las Vegas, there was a little bit. This was kind of still around his time when everyone considered him to be a really good actor. Not that they don't now, but I mean, this is a film that really is well done and well executed, and really one of those films that definitely was not given the proper respect it deserved at the time, like a lot of movies around this year in 1999. But yeah, it definitely feels like a film that really has grown over time. It stood the test of time. It has all the acting there to make it work out there. Even Nicolas Cage himself considers it the best film. One of the best movies he's ever made, and he's made a lot of great movies. But yeah, this is a film that it definitely was ahead of its time. It was a film that did not get the proper attention it deserved when it came out, but luckily has found its way around ever since then to become something a really underrated gem of a film by Martin Scorsese. It's definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it. I highly recommend checking this one out, Bringing Out the Dead. So, with that said, on to our next movie, and a movie that's not quite... Now we get to some of the films that are not quite as good as The Best Man or Bringing Out the Dead. Let's start with Bats. Speaking of movies that probably did not have the best marketing campaign, probably not the best way to sell your movie at the beginning there, by having this, that making this feel like this is a family-friendly film, and then just changing it like that. But that's the least of this movie's problems. You basically have a story here of a hostile swarm of genetically mutated bats terrorizing a local Texas town, and it's up to the zoologist, who teams up with the town sheriff, to exterminate the creatures before they take more lives. And clearly this writer, John Logan, he's never going to go anywhere. I mean, it's not like he went on to be nominated for 3 Academy Awards as a writer, including writing stuff like Sweeney Todd, Hugo, and also, what was the last one he did? The Aviator. And, yeah, clearly not going to go anywhere after that. Of course, joking, of course. But yeah, this film is, yeah, the marketing for this film probably didn't help it in the end. I feel like this is a type of film that was really hard to sell, because it feels like a movie like Eight-Legged Freaks, which we'll eventually get to, that was trying to sell itself as a so-bad-it's-good type of film. And that movie kind of made it work a little bit better, but this... It takes itself way too seriously. The trailers for this made this thing look way too serious than it needed to be, and it just didn't work in the long run. It's a film that probably had some good ideas to it, but it's a pretty lackluster film, and I think had the benefit of just going out there on Halloween weekend, the weekend before Halloween, to try to get whatever money it could, and made its money back, but not by that much. I mean, it only made like $5 million. It was a $5 million budget, so really it was not that much when it was all said and done, but... Hey, we got a sequel out of it, but it was only it's a direct-to-video sequel, but still, I guess there was an audience for it out there, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that one. That's Bats, so let's go ahead and move on to our next film. We're not even close to being done yet, I almost said last. Neve Campbell, Matthew Perry, and Dylan McDermott in 3 to Tango. So yeah, the story behind this is that a rich businessman played by Dylan McDermott mistakenly believes that Matthew Perry, who's bidding on a $90 million restoration contract, is gay, and asks him to keep tabs on his new mistress, played by Neve Campbell. Perry's not gay and falls for Neve in a big way, but she thinks he's gay. So if you've ever wanted to see a truly hateful version of In and Out, here you go. I mean, good lord, this is a terrible movie, and I don't want to say that to anything bad against Matthew Perry, because the guy just died recently as of the time of recording this, and he has been in a lot of really good films. But, yeah, this is just a bad film overall. It's just not funny. It's a bad... I think the Rotten Tomatoes consensus pretty much sums it up nicely. It's a mediocre episode of Friends with more humor and less offensive gay jokes. I don't know. I don't know. I think some of the gay jokes in here are... Okay, the gay jokes in here are not bad per se, but there's just no real point to it when it's all said and done. I mean, this is a film that has potential. You got a lot of good talented actors in here. Matthew Perry, Neve Campbell, Dylan McDermott, Oliver Platt, John C. McGinley is also in here, as is Bob Balaban. But, man, this thing missed the mark big time, and this director has not done anything of relevancy since this came out. Everything he's done after this has either gone straight to TV or straight to video, so... That should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about this guy's credentials as a filmmaker. And, yeah, the movie just isn't fun. Like, if you really want to see a good Matthew Perry movie, go watch something else. Go watch something like Fools Rush In. Or go watch something like The Whole Nine Yards. I mean, yeah, hell, go to watch the Ron Clark story, the TNT movie he did. I mean, those are much better films than anything that this garbage did. I mean, this is just... It's a sitcom plot in a big screen movie. Like, this thing, if it didn't have the actors involved, it'd probably be the TV movie of the week on Lifetime, or even on NBC at this point, because I think NBC was still doing a lot TV movies of the week at this point in 1999, even though we were kind of stepping away from TV movies in general, and the original TV movies, and before, and not too much longer, movies in general were just taken off of those broadcast networks overall, But I digress. This is not a good film, so avoid this one like the plague. So let's go ahead and move on to our next film, and that is Antonio Banderas making his directorial debut with Crazy in Alabama. Yeah, sorry for the sucky quality on that. That was a trailer that I really had a hard time finding a good quality version of. I found the trailer, but the last 30 seconds just kept cutting out. It kept freezing, like, it's not because of me, but because of the video itself. And then the TV spot, the volume was so low, that's the only one I could use, so I tried to lift the volume up as much as I could on there, but that's the best I could do on such short notice. But here you have a story about Melanie Griffin playing an abused housewife who becomes an actress while a nephew deals with a racially motivated murder involving a corrupt sheriff played by, of all people, Meatloaf. For some reason, this is a film I wanted to see when it came out, and kind of glad I didn't do it at that time, and it took me a long time to finally see the film, because, man, this thing had no idea what the hell they were trying to go for when it was all said and done, because this is not a very good film. For Antonio Banderas' directorial debut, it's not that he's doing a bad job with it, he's just not given a good script to work with. This is based off of a novel by Mark Childress, who actually wrote the script for this, and I don't know. This is a film that really has it really has a tonal shift problem. Like, there's too many moments where it's trying to be this lighthearted comedy, and then at times it's trying to be this serious drama, and there's really no balance in this film. It doesn't balance the comedic moments, the dramatic moments out well at all, and when it's all said and done, it just doesn't really give you everything that you wanted from it. Melanie Griffin, I think, does a fine job in here, but it's not really a lot to say for save this movie overall. Noteworthy, this is also the first film that Dakota Johnson was in, Melanie Griffin's daughter, and she went on to have a really good career after that. She's gone on to become a really good actress overall. But yeah, besides that though, there's really not a lot here I can really recommend about it. It's too long, and it just doesn't have the balance that it needs to really be something worth watching on a big screen. And it's a major disappointment, because this is one I was actually looking forward to checking out when I was 10 years old, but I never got to see it, and when I finally did, I was pretty let down by it. So that is Crazy in Alabama. So on to the next film, and that is Body Shots. Okay, first mistake is trying to compare yourself to stuff like The Graduate, Saturday Night Fever, and The Breakfast Club. I mean, that takes a lot of balls to really think you're going to be as memorable as those films, which, surprise, this movie was not memorable in any way, shape, or form. You basically have a story here where a group of 20-somethings are planning to go out to a club for a night of fun. The following morning, one of the girls, Sarah, played by Tara Reid, accuses fellow clubber Mike, played by Jerry O'Connell, of date rape. The story of the previous ending is told through two different points of view, one being how Sarah remembers it, and the other how Mike remembers it, and this is notable because Tara Reid said the only reason she did a nude seat for this film was because her character was getting raped. She literally said, "I'd never do a scene where my character takes off her shirt for no reason, for just a little TNA. That's stupid. That's exploiting yourself. I pass on a lot of movies where they want me to do nude stuff where it's not necessarily for the role. It makes the film cheesy," which, that's a hell of a backhanded compliment when you consider how cheesy this film is, because this is a really, really bad movie. This is a film that doesn't know if it wants to be, again, like with a lot of the bad movies we've looked at so far this week, that doesn't know what the tonal shift is. Doesn't want to be a comedy, doesn't want to be a drama. They really don't know what the balance is here. And there's a lot of good actors involved in here. Sean Patrick Flannery, Jerry O'Connell, Amanda Peet, Tara Reid, Ron Livingston, Emily Proctor. Good cast overall here, but man, just the tonal shift on this is just all over the place. It's just like, what are you even trying to accomplish here? I mean, what's the point? What's the end result of this? And I'm sorry, like, this is something that you cannot have it be this way. Like, pick a side, pick which tone you want to take with it, and just go with it. Because that trailer tries to sell this as a comedy, but it's not like that at all. It doesn't know exactly what direction it wants to go in, and it stumbles because of it big time. Like, this is a film that really needed a better writer to come in here and decide, what direction are we going for here? Do we go for a comedy? Do we go for a drama? We can't have it both ways. And the trailer in this movie made it feel like it was trying to go both ways, and it just did not work out in the end. It was a really bad film, a really big letdown considering the talent involved here, and not a good film. Not a good film at all. So, on to our next film, Elizabeth Shue in Molly. Oscar bait. That's all this is Oscar bait. Elizabeth Shue plays a 28-year-old woman with autism who comes into the custody of her neurotic executive brother. But I didn't even need to tell you that, because it ends on the most cliched, that trailer ends on the most cliched, riddled thing you could find in an Oscar bait film. Somebody standing in front of a water fountain with their hands up in the air and their eyes closed, like, I've achieved nirvana. Like, come on, man. Like, really? We're really doing this again? Like, it's just, I don't think I have anything more to say about that one. The movie is not that good. It's a bad film, and just a film that has such a tonal problem. Again, like with a lot of the movies that we've talked about this week, it's a bad movie that has a bad case of tonal shifting. Like, it doesn't know what needs to be funny overall and what needs to be dramatic overall. It can't decide which way it wants to go. And even MGM knew this film was going to bomb. This thing was made for $21 million. MGM cut their losses, eliminated the film's marketing budget, and released it on a single weekend in 12 cinemas in order to meet the legal obligations, and then never played again after that. Like, that's how you know this is a bad film, because even the studio said, oh God, we're not making any money off of this, are we? Just a bad movie, man. Just a bad movie. This actor's in here, and there's good actors in here too. Elizabeth Shue, Aaron Eckhart, Jill Hennessy, Thomas Jane, Lucy Liu. Like, you couldn't find a way to make this work, but nope, they went the Oscar bait route, and it stumbles badly. So, not much more to say about that one. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up, and let's go to a movie that knows it's not real, but people still love it. It's the WWF documentary Beyond the Mat. It's hilarious how John Stossel got punched by a wrestler because he criticized the fact that this was fixed and all that, and he lost his hearing I think he lost his hearing in part of his ear for a little bit. Or I don't know if he still has it or not, but I just remember that from an ABC News segment from the 80s. But here's a documentary that's pretty much literally telling you, oh yeah, this is all fake. But this is about the lives of professional wrestlers outside the ring, primarily Mick Foley, Terry Funk, and Jake Roberts, and it features both the WWF, ECW, during the rise of its popularity, and many other independent wrestlers and organizations. And it's a pretty fascinating documentary, really. Like, it's a film that, even if you know wrestling's fake, and even if you're not the biggest fan of it, you can still find a lot to get in there. It's kind of the wrestling equivalent to something like Hearts of Darkness. You know, it's a film that, even if you're not the biggest fan of Apocalypse Now, you can still find a lot to admire about Hearts of Darkness. You can definitely find a lot to admire about this film overall, too. I mean, it's hard-hitting. It delves into stuff that you really weren't expecting of a documentary like this to really delve into. And it creates a very unique and very interesting experience overall. Like, you really do get invested of everybody involved in this, and you really do get invested in these scenarios that they put themselves into, and the elements that they have to go into to really get these wrestling matches to come out looking as great as they want them to. And it leads into a lot of very intriguing situations, a lot of intriguing conversations in this film. It's a really good documentary. Like I said, even if you're not the biggest WWE fan overall, you can still find a lot to admire about this even by looking at it. It's a really well-made documentary. I'd highly recommend checking it out, Beyond the Mat. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll look at Halloween weekend 1999 with 4 films: House on Haunted Hill, the Wes Craven directed Music of the Heart, which is totally different from anything Wes Craven's ever done, and we'll delve into that one. Spike Jonze's Being John Malkovich, and we also have the American release of Hayao Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke. So, 4 films we'll look at next time. We'll delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and don't go too far away, because coming up after I upload this is going to be a new episode of Time About the Movies Flashback, where we'll take a look at the films of September 30th, 1988, including Chris Columbus' Heartbreak Hotel, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and Clint Eastwood's Bird. So be on the lookout for that, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you like seeing these videos and want to see more of them, and I will see you guys in just a little bit, so stick around.